Board to order, please. We'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States. Could we have a roll call, please?
Ms. Carbano?
Here. It might be mine.
Mr. Fortier?
Here.
Mr. Monero?
Here.
Mr. Hosey?
Here.
Mr. Crockett?
Here.
Okay. Did everyone get a chance to look over the minutes from the October 24th meeting? An approval, or if you have any changes?
I move to approve the minutes as they've been submitted.
I'll second.
Okay. I've had a motion and a second that it would also all be approved. Okay, that doesn't need to have any announcements. Old business, we have none. New business, I'll turn it to Wayne.
Thank you. Good evening. Thanks for being here. The first matter we have before the board tonight, this is to request to reinstate a certificate of competency that was originally issued by this board. And this is in the matter of Mr. Nick Moran. His carpentry license, his local license number is 1229. He's seeking board approval to reinstate his carpentry certificate of competency license, which expired on 9/30/2009. The applicable section of the City Code of Ordinances is 26-168C, and it states that a certificate which is inoperative because of failure to renew shall be restored on payment of the proper renewal fee. If the application for restoration is not made before the beginning of the next fiscal year of the city, the fee for restoration shall be double the original renewal fee. In addition, the board may require re-examination of the applicant. A certificate which is not renewed within 3 full years after expiration may not be renewed, restored, or reinstated thereafter, except by reapplication and re-examination. So the last sentence there is the key sentence. It has been 3 full years since his license expired, and he'd like to be reinstated without having to take the test over. And I have always deferred this decision to the board, because it's not within my power to make that decision, but I think the board, with good cause, in the past, they have made that decision one way or another. So that's why Mr. Moran is here tonight. And in your packet, you should have had the backup that I provided to you, that Mr. Moran provided to us, which has his letter requesting the reinstatement. I included the contractor's detail from our system, which shows when his license expired. And behind that is the number of years that he did renew, which it looks like he renewed from 2002 to 2008. He has, I think, maintained his Indian River County contractor licensing, and workman's comp he showed proof of, or exemption. And his corporation papers. So You want to wish to ask questions of Mr. Moran?
I have a question for you first.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, sure.
How was the Indian River County contractor licensing, how was that being done without them knowing that this had run out?
Well, this occurs a lot of times because he got his certificate of competency from here,
Right,
which means a lot of times if they work somewhere else and they maintain their license there, by paying every year, their license stays activated. Usually this comes up when they have a different job somewhere else, and now they need a letter of reciprocity from us, because licenses reciprocate from one county or municipality to another. The local licenses I'm talking about, not state licenses. So this usually comes up when they're trying to get a letter of reciprocity.
Okay.
And, you know, if they're not in good standing, we don't issue it.
Okay. I just thought the fact that it was...
And I'm not sure, I
the
can't remember
county.
if that's Mr. Moran's case or
Yeah.
not, but regardless,
We
he's
don't know
here.
how the county processes their work either, so,
Yes, sir.
okay.
Got a question?
Okay,
His original license was with the city of Sebastian, is that correct?
Is there what? I'm sorry.
His original license
Yes.
was with the city of
Originally,
Sebastian?
Yes, prior to like 2006, this board used to routinely review applicants to be tested, to become licensed individuals. And so many of those individuals are still around and, you know, they're still active in the industry. So this board still has disciplinary authority over them.
So he has an active license with Indian River County?
He has kept it active there, I believe.
Okay.
Wayne, two things. First thing, what's the scope of this? What does it allow him to do, would be the first thing. Second thing, is there any continuing ed that's required for those 3 years that he
It's
missed?
carpentry and it's not real.
When you say carpentry,
Not
I
real
mean, that's general.
specific, but I would assume that that has to do with, you know, framing and, you know, possibly trim work and, that type of thing. So,
So, allowed to frame houses? I mean, I'm trying to,
you know, with a carpentry's license, you could.
okay. And
I
there's
mean, you
no,
have to be working under a GC or something. Typically, a carpenter, somebody with a carpentry license is a subcontractor,
so he's allowed to work as a sub?
yes.
Oh, okay.
They're typically not coming in and pulling permits.
Ah, okay,
They're like subcontractors,
okay. And there's no there's no educated,
not
No.
local licenses, no.
okay. What was the reason we got out of this?
cost too much.
Staffing was a big part of it. You know, there was a downturn in the economy at the time. We would have had to raise fees to see even break even. I mean, because it was, just takes up an enormous amount of time interviewing all these applicants, getting the information, bringing it to the board. And we just decided that why is the city of Sebastian the licensing agency for the whole county? It should be the county seat that
Yeah.
does that. And we were hoping that they would take it up once we stopped doing it. They never
They
really.
didn't, right?
they
Isn't it
didn't,
Fort
no.
Pierce?
You either have to
So
go
now we have to
Fort
send
Pierce
people
or
to
Brevard, yeah.
Down in St. Lucie County
St. Lucie
or
County, yeah.
Brevard
Okay.
is where we normally tell people they can go, the closest places they can go to have it done.
So they go down there, get licensed, and get a letter of reciprocity to work in
Reciprocity,
Sebastian?
come back up here,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
Kitchen, could he pull his own permit, like a kitchen remodel?
I don't think it would include all of that. The carpentry, I don't think would. I would say not,
Would not be able to.
yeah. I mean, if he was just doing the cabinets, maybe, but certainly not plumbing, electrical, or anything like that, you know, that would
No.
have to be done by
Right.
somebody else, but,
But didn't you say, Wayne, I didn't mean to jump on you, but didn't you
Go
say that he can't pull permits? This license doesn't allow you to pull a permit.
That's what I'm trying to figure out, what's the
Yeah.
threshold if you.
That's what I wanna know. I mean, we're going A to Z here before we say 3 years. I mean, what is he allowed to do?
I'm gonna say that technically, I think he could pull permits. I don't know of anything that says he couldn't. But typically they don't. You know, we did these type of sub-trade contractors aren't in there pulling permits, usually working for somebody else that,
So he could
As a
actually pull a
sub.
permit and do a job, and there's
Yeah.
there's no continuing ed, there's no nothing? I mean, that's
not on local licenses.
kinda, okay.
I mean, so here's the thing, when DBPR or an investigator, licensed investigator, even us, right, we go out there and we look to see who's on the job and who's licensed, who's not. Or if you're not on the payroll of the contractor, well, then you need to be a licensed person yourself.
Absolutely.
And typically, that's why these guys are licensed, so that they can actually have a crew and have, be out there performing that aspect of the job, and and be up to snuff with their license and everything. So, and plus we're making sure that they're got their insurance, they're going with workman's comp.
What is the, so 3 years, what was the, if he was registering and he was coming in, what's the
The
fee?
last time it expired on 9/30/2009.
So it's
so-
more than that, it's
So it's been,
been more than 3. Okay.
almost.
What is it a year, how much is it a year to register it?
It's 35
Shows
a
30.
year if you do it on time.
35 now?
Yeah,
okay.
and then there's a penalty, there's a sliding scale, there's a penalty, 2 months late, it goes up a certain percentage, then eventually, if you don't renew at all, it's $75 a year.
Okay. Is there anything additional as far as work that your department has to do because of the fact that he has let it go?
We've done in the past is we make them pay for all those years.
No,
that-
that's what I was trying to get. I mean, is there
Yeah.
some substance or something that you
Yes.
have to do in your department where?
Typically,
Really should pay.
unless the board rules otherwise, typically, we make them pay for however many years that they were inactive. In his case, it was 8 years, which comes out to $600, and then the current year's is $36 till March. So a total of like $636,
36?
$636.
636, I'm sorry. I didn't hear you. Okay.
Is Mr. Moran here?
Yes.
Sorry?
Is he here?
Yes, yeah, yeah.
I'd like to know what he's been doing for the last 8 or
Oh.
9 years.
As soon as you're done with me, you're
Yeah,
welcome
he
to bring
usually
him up and
comes up
Yeah,
next.
that's, I
question
think
him all
that's.
you want.
Has he been
Okay.
active
If-
and working?
well, yeah.
You'll have to ask him.
Have you?
Well,
Yeah, he's
why
gonna,
don't-
wait till he comes
Why don't I
up.
sit down,
Wait till
and
he
he'll
comes
come
up.
up,
Okay.
all right?
Yeah.
Unless you have anything else for me. Okay.
Mr. Moran? Your name and address, please, for the record?
My name and address is Nick Moran, 3605 3rd Street, Vero Beach, 329-6168,
Okay.
68, not 61.
Okay, do you have anything you'd like to say before I turn it over to the gentleman?
No, just that your question was, what have I been doing? I maybe have done some light carpentry work. For the last 6 months, I've been doing carpentry work, but in '07, the economy kind of took a dive and it looked pretty bad, and I went through the one in '74 and '75, and I just thought, well, I got a hot dog stand and I was selling hot dogs. And then I wound up in inside of a convenience store making food and sandwiches in there, doing that as a business as well. And that's what I've been doing when the convenience store sold the store to another owner, and we couldn't come to terms of rent and the cost and everything. And so I decided to leave and get back my contractor's license if I could. So,
Now, you're seeking for your carpentry, not a contractor.
That's right.
Okay,
I have a question.
go right ahead.
Have you done any carpentry work in Sebastian since 2009? Okay.
I've done very little carpentry work at all, but I've done a few little things. You know,
But nothing in Sebastian?
nothing in Sebastian.
So you were a subcontractor or an independent contractor to like Barth, RCL, and all of those?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that it? Okay.
Have you done any carpentry work since 2008?
In the last 6 months, yes. I had a cabinet shop. Well, in the last 6 months, I worked for Barf Construction and RCL Development, building like exterior decks and framing out room additions, tearing out and restoring houses in Windsor. That's where I've been. And my intentions are to maybe just do like cabinets or installation cabinets or stuff, because my age is that real bull work is pretty tough on me. So that's my intention anyway, is to do like cabinets, small stuff, small trim jobs, and a couple of times I had as many as 28 guys working, you know. So I mean, I was doing pretty good for a while. So
Okay.
I think I'll get to that.
Anyone else have any questions for either Wayne or Mr. Moran? Okay.
Wayne, have you calculated what it might cost Mr. Moran to reinstate his license, other than taking an examination?
Yes, sir. We talked about that a few minutes ago.
$636.
$636 is what it would take to pay back all the fees since his license expired in 2009.
So it'll cost him $36?
$636.
636. Mr. Moran, are you in a position to pay that rather than take the exam?
Yeah, I can pay it. I mean, taking an exam is pretty expensive too. Yes, that's a lot of money right now, but I have it to pay.
Wayne, is there another license within carpentry? Is there like a specialized license within the carpentry, like just for finished work, or is it just the blanket carpentry license?
I'm sorry, my hearing is not the best. If you could repeat that.
Is there, so he's applying for the carpentry license. Isn't there like a specialty license that just covers interior woodwork? Or is it just, you only have the option of carpentry?
Well, there's lots of categories of specialty licenses, the whole page of them. Carpentry is just one of them. Does that answer your question?
Is there anything that covers trim work like that, like cabinets, like he wants to do?
Yeah, like just, yes.
I believe there is actual trim
Yeah, there is.
license.
But he would have to take the test then. I mean, in this way,
If he wanted to just do trim, I mean, if it was incidental to what he was doing, then I would say that that would be okay. But, you know, for somebody who holds himself out as just a trim contractor, then they would have to have that license.
But he's going to limit himself by doing that.
I don't want to be limited if
Yeah, he would limit himself by doing that,
Right.
correct?
Yes, that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying.
Yeah,
You know, you kind of have to decide if you're going to be a carpenter, but let's say he puts in some cabinets or whatever, and it requires a little bit of trim work, I don't think that's a problem. If he was just holding himself out as just a trim carpenter, then that would probably be, he would need a different type of license.
so with the carpentry license, basically, he can do ancillary things like that, like trim and little stuff to the side.
Yeah.
I mean, I
If
think
it's
that would be the right way to
incidental
go.
his other work, yes.
Yeah, that's the way to go, because if you go with a trim license, well then,
Right.
what if you had to fix a wall? You know,
Right,
it's,
exactly.
so.
Anybody else have any other questions? Would you like to summarize, Wayne? Or,
I can, sure. Mr. Moran is here before the board to seek to reinstate his carpentry license that has been inactive since 2009. To reinstate his license and pay all the fees since it expired would be $636. Whatever the pleasure of the board.
anybody have any other questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to, either way for this gentleman to either get his competency card reinstated or not, so.
I would make the motion that, providing that Mr. Moran pays the balance from 2009 to current, that we reinstate his license.
Second the motion.
Okay, we've had a motion and a second. Can I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Carbano?
No.
Mr. Fortier?
Yes.
Mr. Monero?
Yes.
Mr. Hosey?
No.
Mr. Crockett?
Yes.
Okay, we've had a motion and second, and we've had a vote, which is 3-2, correct? Okay, so I guess we're going to reinstate you, Mr. Moran.
Thank you.
You have to come in and see them tomorrow or whenever.
Okay,
Okay, thank you very much.
Just come to our building department.
okay.
It's fine. We're open until 4:30.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Wayne, we're next for Mr. Flores. Yes.
The next case before the board is a very similar case, and this involves also a request to reinstate certificate of competency, and this is in the matter of Mr. Brian Flores. Did I say that right? He is a residential contractor. His local license number is 1843. His state registered contractor license is RR 2828-11468. Mr. Flores is seeking board approval to reinstate his residential contractor certificate of occupancy that expired on 9/30/2008. Again, the applicable code section from the City Code of Ordinances, section 26-168C. I'm not gonna read the whole thing, we already read it the
No,
last,
okay.
well, maybe I should. A certificate which is inoperative because of failure to renew shall be restored on payment of the proper renewal fee. If the application for restoration is not made before the beginning of the next fiscal year of the city, the fee for restoration shall be double the original renewal fee, and in addition, the board may require re-examination of the applicant. A certificate which is not renewed within 3 full years after expiration may not be renewed, restored, or reinstated thereafter except by reapplication and re-examination. And again, the last sentence is the one that we're here about. It's been more than 3 years since Mr. Flores has renewed his license. It has been since 9/30/2008. Just to clarify, he is a residential contractor. Certain licenses, no matter whether it's local or otherwise, they have to register with the state. It's the type of licenses are the ones that the state would also license. So you could be a residential contractor, you can go take a state license, state test to get that license. You can also take a local test to get that license, but if you do it locally, you have to register with the state, and the state will give you a registration rather than a certificate. So certified contractor is somebody who has taken the test with the state. A registered contractor is somebody who has a local license but is registered with the state. So the disciplinary actions against a registered contractor is at the local level before it goes to state level. just to clarify that.
And he has to have a comp card for every place he works, right? Every county that he works, he has to have a comp card.
I have the backup in here, the letter that he gave to us, and the City of Sebastian's information. His receipts, he did pay for, looks like 3 years he paid. Also, it shows that he is currently active at the state level with his registration. And I believe, I'd have to ask Mr. Flores, if you're, as a state registered contractor, do you have to take continuing education to keep that? Yes, I do. He does. 14 hours. So that's the difference with being state registered. They do
Yeah.
have to get continuing education. He has provided a letter stating his history. Looks like his resume. So the backup information that he needs, or that he presented for the board to review. Did I answer your question, Jean?
Yes, you did,
Okay.
yes. Anyone else have any questions of Wayne? Okay, I guess we'll bring Mr. Flores up.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Okay. Mr. Flores, state your name and address, please.
Yes, my name is Brian Flores. My address is 107 Alameda Ave, Sebastian, Florida, 32958.
Anyone have any questions on the left side here? We'll start over here. No?
I do.
Okay.
Mr. Flores, on your resume, you've got a terrific employment history. But what have you been doing since August of 2016?
Yes, that's when I reactivated my license. At first, I was a project manager for Ruttenberg at the time when I reactivated my license. I was going to build a spec home on the side at nights and weekends. Got into that and realized pretty quickly, you know, that's a full-time job after it took me about a month to form the slab. So I put in my notice with Ruttenberg and built a spec home from start to finish. I did, you know, bought the lot, designed it, did all the work in-house myself with me and a crew of 3, minus the mechanicals, plumbing, electrical, AC. I subbed those out, but everything else. So that took about 8 months of that time. And then from there, at that time, I was already, you know, back active with the state, workers' comp, and also still active with Indian River County. So I moved right from there to doing kitchen and bathroom remodels in Vero Beach, I'm sorry. And also worked for a few subs, or a few other contractors doing framing, trim, miscellaneous things. So
You've kept active since that time, since 2016?
yes.
Okay.
Wayne, how many years did it expire? What's the total?
Looks like 9 years.
9?
Yeah.
I did calculate it out, if you want to know what that is. So the 9 years of $75 a year was $675. And then again, the current year till March would be additional 36, for a total of $711.
I do have a question, too. You were working, according to your resume, from August 16th to present. You said you were working your job description, and I read it down there. And that's what you were doing, is building the spec home?
For the first 8 months of that time.
Okay, and your license was that you were state registered, is that it?
That's correct. Yeah, I'm a registered.
Yeah, I see that now, I'm
Residential.
looking at it right now.
And then I just want to say, in those years, it seems like a long time. I wasn't aware that I was supposed to keep my license active in Sebastian. Since you guys, approved me to take the exam, I'm very much aware of it now. and
Yeah.
we'll keep it active from here on out. So I was actually pretty shocked when I came in this month to pull a permit here in Sebastian. So that whole time I was working in Vero and the Shores, which, you know, the Shores has
Right.
their own building department. So for many years, that kept me busy. And then I went to pull a permit this month, at the beginning of this month, and found out that we had this issue. So, so
How
yeah,
much is it if you
seems-
put it on inactive? It's only $10, is it?
Yes, if anybody, a contractor who chooses to go inactive, it's $10 a year.
Yeah.
Or is he saying?
I know that now.
He didn't know.
Just for your own info.
You know, this is kind of typical, a lot of people aren't aware of it. Although they were probably told when they got their license, they probably forgot. And even though he's a registered contractor, he still would need the certificate of letter of reciprocity in
Right.
order to go in other places.
Right.
Even though he's state registered, he still needs to follow that same process. But yes, it's only $10 for
Yeah.
inactive.
Okay, anyone else have any other questions? Yes. Either Wayne or Mr. Flores?
Summary?
No questions? I'll entertain a motion for what you want to do. Do you want to charge him like we did the other gentleman, or yes or no?
I'd like just to ask one more question.
Go right ahead, Jack.
You don't particularly want to take that examination again, do you?
No, sir. No,
I don't
sir.
blame you.
I'm not scared, but it wasn't fun. So.
In any case, I will make a motion to take his money and reinstate him.
I'm looking for a second to that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to have his license reinstated, and he has to pay the fee of $711. Could I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Carbano?
No?
Mr. Fortier?
Yes.
Mr. Manero?
Yes.
Mr. Hosey?
Yes.
Mr. Crockett?
Okay, we've had the vote, so you just have to come in and see the building department and take care of it with the check.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Money when you can.
Now we have recommendation to the city council about a proposed ordinance that's been amended for fire prevention and protection.
Yes. This next agenda item is on here because in our code of ordinances, under the construction board powers and duties, one of the things that functions of the board is to advise city council whenever there is a matter that where it involves construction or a code change. And so this is what we are proposing with an ordinance, is to make a code change which will affect construction and how things are done. So I'm bringing it before the board here for review and recommendation to city council. You know, I feel that this is the right thing to do, especially the makeup of this board is very good right now with contractors and design professionals and inspectors, people that have been in the trades for a long time. So I know you all will understand this and appreciate it. So I'm going to start with a PowerPoint presentation. And what this is designed to do is just to go over the highlights or the overall purpose of the ordinance. And you feel free to stop me anywhere along the way if you'd like. But at the end, we can also go over the ordinance in detail. If you want, we can put it on the overhead. Any questions or anything you have, I'll be happy to answer them. So, get started. You guys seeing what I'm seeing here?
Yes.
Okay. So this is ordinance number 01802 to amend, revise, and update Chapter 42 of the City of Sebastian Code of Ordinances, which is entitled Fire Prevention and Protection. So a little bit of background. Florida statutes requires, under 553.79, that no building permit can be issued that is subject to review of the Florida Fire Prevention Code and Life Safety Code until it's reviewed and approved by a certified fire inspector pursuant to Florida Statute 633.216. Currently, these duties are handled by Indian River County Fire Bureau, and they provide those services for plan review and inspections. So this type of thing applies to all new commercial buildings, additions, or renovations, including fire sprinkler or fire alarm permits. So the current process. Currently, applicants for commercial projects are required to submit to the City of Sebastian Building Department, as well as separate submittal to the Indian River County Fire Bureau in Vero Beach, Florida. So the applicant comes in, they apply for a permit with 3 sets of plans, 2 of them which we keep, and that's so that we keep one and they get one back once it's been approved. Then the 3rd set, we stamp as received, and then they have to take it down to Indian River County Fire Bureau, apply there, and pay their fees. So because of that, the timeframes for permits and inspections are routinely delayed, as there's 2 separate agencies involved in every one of those permits and every step of the way. So this divided process, it's time-consuming, costly, and it's adverse to the economic development of the city. So what we're proposing is a one-stop shop. So the city would like to establish a one-stop procedure where construction plans can be reviewed by the city for compliance with both the Florida Building Code as well as the Florida Fire Prevention Code and Life Safety Code. So the applicants will be able to submit their plans to the building department and expect to have their plans reviewed in a timely manner, which should expedite the permit process greatly. So coming to plan review, again, they go to 2 separate agencies. Their backlog is not the same as our backlog. Typically, we're done much faster than they are, but because they have essentially one plans examiner doing all the projects in the entire county, and he has a lot on his plate. So if there is plan review comments, which typically there is on a larger project, commercial, they have to wait till not only building department comments are collected, but also the fire comments are done before they can revise the plans and resubmit. So going into one stop, that kind of eliminates all of that. All the plan review, fire prevention, and building will be done at the same time. So same thing with inspections requests. Through one agency only, and to eliminate the need for duplicate inspections. Trying to schedule inspections for 2 different agencies to be there at the same time is somewhat difficult, and our inspection process is next day. You call today, you get an inspection tomorrow. That has not always been the case with the current process. And again, it's because of the backlog of workload. So the enabling legislation that would allow us to do this is Florida Statute 633, entitled Fire Prevention and Control. Florida Statute 633.118 is the persons authorized to enforce laws and rules of the state fire marshal. And this statute provides that personnel designated by local governments having no organized fire service providers are authorized to enforce this chapter and all rules prescribed by the state fire marshal within their respective jurisdictions. Now, I underline fire service providers. That's not underlined in the statute. That's my underlining. And the reason being is the term fire service provider, it is defined in 633.102 to mean a municipality or other forms of government that employ firefighters or volunteer firefighters to provide fire extinguishment or fire prevention services. So what this all means, the statute, it means that because we don't have an organized fire department, does not mean we still have the authority to enforce the laws and rules of Chapter 633 Florida statutes, which is the rules of the state fire marshal. So you don't have to have a fire department to do plan review and inspections. So we do this through this ordinance, which the creation of a fire marshal's office. The proposed ordinance gives the authority to the city council to establish a fire marshal's office responsible for the enforcement of the city's fire prevention and protection regulations and the laws and rules of the state fire marshal. The city fire marshal or designee will be responsible for the issuance of permits, certificates, notices, approvals, and/or orders pertaining to life safety, fire control, and fire hazards. So the proposed ordinance designates the building director to be the fire marshal for the city. Inspection and plan review. Florida Statute 633.216 states that each municipality that has fire safety enforcement responsibilities shall employ or contract with a certified fire safety inspector to conduct all fire safety inspections required by law. So very similar to a building inspector or plans examiner, that you have to be licensed. So the proposed ordinance gives city council the authority to enter into contracts with other approved agencies for fire protection services. So for the purpose of providing fire safety inspections and fire protection services by qualified individuals, the city will propose to enter into a contract with Safe Built Florida LLC. Now, Safe Built is a private provider company that we've reached out to because they also provide not only plan review and inspections for building code, they also provide fire safety inspectors. So they're qualified individuals. They do this around the state. They do it for Orange County, which would be when we do propose it to council, we'll be looking to piggyback off of that contract. They also, they do it for the city of Fellsmere. So we feel that, we realize we're jumping into something new to us. We need to have qualified individuals. We need to do this right. So we're going to rely on Safe Built Florida to guide us through this process until the building department staff's currently undergoing training to become state certified fire inspectors. Our staff will eventually be fully trained to enforce all aspects of fire prevention and life safety rules and regulations required by law. Myself, I'm currently taking the fire inspector courses. It is required, it's a 200-hour, it's 5 40-hour courses. I'm in my last course now. Should be finishing it up by the end of this month. And I hope to be sitting for the exam in February, if not February, March. Got to go through a little, got to register and all that kind of things. So that being said, we're still going to rely on Safe Built Florida to guide us through the process of doing the inspections and plan reviews and things we need to do for fire prevention and life safety. So in conclusion, this proposed ordinance 01802 gives authority to City Council to establish a fire marshal's office for the purpose of the enforcement of the laws and rules of the state fire marshal. The creation of a one-stop procedure at the building department will greatly enhance the city's ability to expedite the permit process, control all aspects of fire prevention and life safety. The establishment of the fire marshal's office within the city of Sebastian is in the best interest of health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of Sebastian. Now, I also want to discuss, in addition to the conclusion we just talked about, some of the benefits of this. The one-stop shop, just to recap here, it'll be beneficial to contractors, owners, design professionals. It'll expedite the process. It'll keep everything in-house. There'll be a savings for the consumer. Although we're going to adjust our fee schedule by resolution to cover our costs to enforce the fire prevention life safety codes, our fees will likely be less than what the county is already paying now. And there'll be additional cost savings for the applicant because they won't be making all these trips down to Vero Beach and providing extra sets of plans and things like that. For continuity and efficiency, plan reviews and scheduling of inspections will be done in-house through one agency. It'll be a benefit to the contractor. In the overall construction of the projects, since building and fire inspections will really be done side by side, by one agency, the inspector is gonna have a more thorough
Oh,
understanding of all aspects of the projects, which is gonna lend itself to another, to a smoother process and better results. Inspections, the level of inspections on existing occupancies, which are required to be inspected sometimes annually, as dictated by the code, will be done timely. Our entire staff will be fully trained to take on the role of the fire safety inspector. This will provide for a safer community, reduce the chance of liability for the city, and also help with Indian River County's Fire Bureau staffing issues for the entire county. So, I mean, my goal is to have all of us trained as fire inspectors as well as building inspectors, which means I'll have 4 people covering the state of, or the city of Sebastian, where now, you know, they got 1 person covering North County. So, you know, and this is important. I mean, just a side note from just as today I was reading something, an article where in the state of Connecticut, they had a situation where they had a fire in an apartment building. And the Supreme Court ruled that because these inspections weren't being done on a regular basis as required by state law, that they found that the city could be held liable for blatant disregard of the code. And they quoted, they said that they were understaffed, and that was the reason why they weren't doing it. But, you know, a woman and her 3 children lost their lives. So, you know, with the additional staff being certified to do this, you know, we'll be able to take on that duty and do the inspections that are required by law.
Yeah, where I used to work, we built a new building, and we had to go through with the fire guy having it, my boss is out of town, the guys, you know, I gotta get this done in order to get something else started, and we had to wait for that fire guy to, the fire chief or assistant chief that does all the work on that, just to sign his name on that piece of paper.
Yeah.
You know, and it was
You know,
like
well,
a week.
it's important, and I'm sure Indian River County Fire Bureau would agree.
Oh, absolutely.
But for what I've been here in my 14th year, and I've watched this process all these years. And I've talked to those folks, I have a great relationship with them. But I do know that they lack in the ability to be able to go out and do all these inspections with you.
That's the one
Nothing against them. It's just that, that's just the way it is. And I just feel that this is something you do in-house here. We're gonna have the staff to do it.
And I have to say that anything I do that's involved with Indian River County, it's always the fire marshal that I'm waiting on.
Right.
You know, the questions or the inspection. I'm surprised you haven't done it before this. I think it's a great idea.
So I'm prepared to answer any questions. We can go over this ordinance step by step. We can use the overhead projector here if you'd like. At this point, you know, it is a draft ordinance. It's pretty well done.
Wayne,
but,
how
we haven't
long?
brought it to the council.
How long would you say that your staff will be up and ready to go, where you don't have to have the limited liability company, because that's a little sketchy.
Having taken the courses myself, I mean, you have to carve out 200 hours of your time to do it. And for me, that was very difficult. This has been a busy year.
Right.
So I'm not going to say that it's going to be, you know, a year. It could be 2 years before we get everybody fully staffed. And this proposed contract with Safe Built is, you know, year to year. So, and they understand what our goals are. But in the meantime, again, I'm not going to take this lightly. I'm not going to, as designated fire marshal of the city, I want it to be done right, you know, and so we're going to rely on Safe Build as long as we need to.
And the city's not concerned at all with the fact that it's an LLC? You know, that's usually like a little umbrella to get away from responsibility.
Concerned with what? I'm sorry?
Is the city...
The LLC?
Yeah, are they concerned with the fact that that company is in responsibility?
It's just like any other private provider company that's out there. I mean, that's basically what they are, a private provider. You know, so GFA, a lot of these others that are out there, Universal, there's many of them, MT Cosley.
But
And
these are the same individuals that do Fellsmere, is that what you said?
yes, they
And their
have a fire
certifi-
inspector that does
Their
Fellsmere.
certificate of insurance will be enough to cover anything that we've,
Yes, we'll have all of that.
so
It'll
even
be
as
fully-
the LLC,
yeah.
they'll still,
Then what we're doing is piggybacking off a contract that's already
Okay.
been, let out, and they already did their due process of trying to, get bids and things like that. So you're allowed to piggyback off other contracts that are already in existence, and that's what we intend to do with the Orange County contract. And of course, all of this has to be reviewed by council, but if the ordinance looks like it's gonna go through, we're gonna present it and do it. And we've met with them, several times and emailed back and forth, and they're on board. So
Are you gonna be the fire marshal then, after this court?
I'm the
is-
building director, building official. After
Right.
this ordinance goes through, that would be another title that I would have as far as, so basically, I'm gonna be directing it. But as the statute says, none of the, even if you were designated as a fire marshal, unless you're a certified fire safety inspector, you can't do any of the inspections.
right.
So you're basically an administrator at that point, But I intend to have the certification, I intend to, but I'm going to be coordinating all of this and making sure it gets done right.
I was just trying to figure out, does this create like another position of like fire marshal at the building department, or is that you were saying you're gonna take that over as well?
Well, the ordinance designates the building director as the fire marshal.
Yeah,
So-
that's, I saw that in there, I was gonna ask about that.
Right, so I basically am wearing two hats. They're very close, they're very one and the same. I mean, you fire prevention code, building code, there's differences, but the makeup of them and a lot of things are the same. I mean, it's another, a code, it's set up the same, type of occupancies, requirements for each occupancy, types of construction, all of those things. There's slight differences between building code and fire prevention codes.
Just thinking long-term, say, I don't know, a few years, another building official comes in, do they have to be the fire marshal too, also, according
Well,
to this,
again,
or-
yes, I think that would be wise of the city to look for somebody who has those credentials or could get the fire safety inspector credentials. But you could designate somebody as the fire marshal for the city, but they can't do any inspections themselves unless they have the right credentials. So there could be somebody that, like I said, is an administrator type person that making sure that these things are getting done, but without, the certification themselves, they can't be the ones out doing it.
But if you eventually had 4, and that's what you said your goal
Right.
was, well, then you got people that could step in.
Exactly.
In case there's an
That's my-
issue. That's the way to do
That's
it.
what I'm thinking.
Yeah. This is
I'm not
strictly
gonna-
commercial.
I love Sebastian, I'd like to be here for everybody,
Yeah, we're not wishing you
We
away.
want
One of
you
these
here.
days, I might think about retirement, but that's a long ways off.
And this
But,
is only for commercial anyway, so how
yes.
much commercial, we're building up pretty good with commercial.
Right. Yes, and the thing of it is too, is unique about Sebastian. What's great about Sebastian is that we have a height limitation on buildings. We don't have high rises. We don't have large apartment complexes and things of that nature. We have,
Thank God.
assisted living facility, we have some, healthcare places and things like that. But none of it is super complicated, that can be,
Right.
Fire sprinkler systems, fire alarm systems, they can be a little complicated too, but, they're usually designed by a design professional. Again, we're gonna keep safe built on as long as we need them to make sure we have the expertise in-house to review
Right.
those things. And so I'm pretty confident that,
Yeah,
we'll be up to speed
right,
fairly
right.
soon.
Having worked in a couple of 3 jurisdictions in South Florida
Yeah,
that had it both ways,
right,
one stop and farming it out as you
Right.
do now here.
yeah,
There is no question about the efficiency factor.
yes,
It almost goes without saying.
yeah.
What about the cost?
Well, we don't plan on passing any of the costs from hiring Safe Build onto the consumer. That was not our plan. So
Are you going
we
to
shouldn't have to pay any extra fees just because we're using Safe Build, but
do
we
you
are
ultimately
gonna-
expect to hire additional people for the fire side?
No, like I was
Inspectors,
saying,
plan reviewers?
my intention is to get everyone that we have as a building inspector trained as a fire and safety inspector as well. So we want to be able to just do it in-house with the staff that we have. I mean, I got great staff, and they know the codes. So there's no reason why they're not going to be able to know the fire codes. It's just going to take a little bit of time. But as far as fees go, we're going to propose, to bring back our resolution for our fee schedule. We'll have to adjust it here and there to be able to cover the costs. But you're paying a fee now down in River County's fire department for no matter what you bring down there, you're going to pay a fee. So ours is not going to be any higher than theirs, probably less.
No, I would assume that you have a annual budget, right, for your department?
Yes.
Does that go up? I mean, it's gotta come from somewhere.
Well, we're going to have to do a budget adjustment because if this passes, because this is mid-year, we've already established the budget. I've talked to our finance director about that, as well as the contract with Safe Built. He's aware that we're going to have to do that. But again, most of our costs for doing this should be offset by adjusting our fee schedule. So we should be able to recoup our costs. But, the other cost savings, again, is the travel time and having to go back and forth between here and Vero Beach,
Plus the waiting until he gets it,
Yeah,
till he
and the
gets
wait
to your
time and all
paper,
of that,
yeah.
the
When you say-
benefit.
When you say travel time of who? Whom?
You can't, when you apply for a permit, so
Yeah.
typically the contractor
Yeah, so this is contractor time.
comes to the building department, submits a set of plans, he has to have 3 sets. One of them is just gonna go down to the fire bureau for their review of the same set of plans. So we're reviewing while they're reviewing it. Now, if there's plan review comments, and they have to bring in revised plans or corrected plans, same process. They gotta go to the building department first, drop these plans off, get it stamped, drive down to Vero Beach, submit them there. It's just kind of a disconnected.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at it
Process.
though, let's talk about the negative would be, it's more work for your department. It's gonna cost more money to actually do it. It will in the end.
Yeah.
And the positive is that it saves time for contractors?
Well, but we're gonna adjust
I agree with
we're
it.
gonna
I'm
adjust our fee schedule, so there'll probably be like a fire plan review fee that will be paid, in addition to what we currently have for a building permit fee. Building plan review fee. So, yes, there's gonna be some additional costs initially up front in our department, but it's not gonna be any more money than they're already paying once they pay us and go down there and pay them too. So, the benefit, I think, is gonna be time and money traveling down
Yeah.
to Vero Beach.
No, I get the benefit, just
Yeah.
like I'm saying, though, if it was on
Waiting
the
for
scale,
the
the benefit is for the
contractor.
contractor. It's not really for the city so much. It's more time, more work for you, and it's gonna cost more money
Well,
to do
we're
it.
here to serve the city, though.
It's gonna cost the contractor more because he said they're gonna adjust the fee schedules.
It never works
Well,
out,
we,
but it's fine.
we plan.
I still think it's a great
I
idea.
haven't gotten that far into the fee schedule, to be honest with you. I don't know what it's gonna change to. We're just trying to propose the ordinance right now.
Yeah.
This is the first step. We can bounce
It's
it
a
off
great
of you
idea.
guys, see what you think, what
wonderful.
recommendation you would give to city council. I'm hoping to give it a favorable recommendation. But there's some other things hurdles we're gonna have to get. One is the fee schedule, to make sure that, we are appropriately recouping the money we should for the service. But I think it's a good thing. I think it's gonna be, for me even, again, I got a good relationship with the fire bureau guys, but for every plan review that finally gets approved, I have to wait for them to send me an email before I can actually release the plans. For every inspection that gets done, I have to get an email or remind them to bring me an email so that I can get it approved in my system, so that the fire department has approved it. I have a record of these things. That's
That's the
something
value for you.
The
That's one of the
contractor-
things.
for
I
me,
get it, I
believe
get
me.
it.
The contractor's gonna love it, being able to do it one way,
They should.
one step, absolutely.
It'd be different, if we were closer together.
Right.
But because we are so far apart,
Right.
it does make a difference.
Oh, even, even with the travel, just the time, I mean, you're gonna be able to do it more timely than waiting for this guy, waiting for your place on the pile to come
Right.
up down there. You
Yeah, and you
know?
can assign priorities to certain projects.
One's in the city.
It's a no-brainer.
I mean, it makes sense all the way around.
Yeah, that's
And
great
and this
idea.
is something that we didn't just think of. The city manager and I have been talking about this for probably a year, and that's why, I started taking the courses, and we decided that I'm pretty close to getting that class done. I was like, well, okay, now let's bring it forward and see if we can make this happen.
200 hours, huh?
Sorry?
200 hours, huh?
200 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was 5 40-hour courses.
That's a lot.
Most of it you can do online, though, so
That's good
yeah,
then.
but you still have to
But you, well,
sit
you
down.
have to
have to read
set
it and
aside
sit and
time
do
to
it.
be
There is a
able to,
timer on there, and believe me,
Yeah.
it takes the whole 40 hours to do
to
it.
be able to concentrate, sure. Yeah. Yeah.
So I spend many a weekend just sitting there in front of the computer. Do you want to go over any aspect of the ordinance at all itself? Did you have any questions about any of it? I mean, the PowerPoint was just to try to give you the overall of where it's going and why.
Do we need to like make a motion, or can we just,
I would like you to, entertain a motion to
okay,
make a recommendation to city council.
okay. Okay, I'd like to call for a motion to adopt our part of ordinance number 0-18-02. Anyone have any?
I would move that the recommendation from us would be to go ahead and move forward as planned.
I would
I mean,
think
we
that
can't really do anything.
your motion could simply be,
To do our portion, to recommend to
recommend to city
to city
council
council, okay.
to approve ordinance number 018-0 if you so
0-18-02.
choose.
Okay. All right, I'll second that motion. We've had a motion and second to...
Did somebody make the motion? I can't make the motion.
Oh, I thought he had made the
Well,
motion.
I made a different one.
Oh, I'm sorry,
I don't
then I
have the
guess
papers in
I'm...
front of me.
Okay, let's go back and start all over. Okay, we need to give a motion to recommend what has been done to ordinance number 0-18-02 for the city of Sebastian.
I'll make a motion then to approve the proposed ordinance number 01802 amendments to the City of Sebastian Code of Ordinances, Chapter 42, Fire Prevention and Protection.
A motion
To
to
approve it.
who? I'm trying
To
to who? To
recommend.
city council? I think
To
that
the-
should be
yeah,
included.
recommend.
Recommend to the city council.
Yes,
Okay.
to approve it.
I'll second that.
Would you like it repeated?
Okay. We've had a motion and a second to recommend to the city council their changes to ordinance number 0-18-02. Could I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Carbano?
Yes.
Mr. Fortier?
Yes.
Mr. Monero?
Yes.
Mr. Hosey?
Yes.
Mr. Crockett?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Board matters. Attorney matters. We do have a new city attorney, right?
Yes. Well, no.
Oh.
Yes, they have chosen one, and tomorrow night at the council meeting is when they'll go over his contract.
Oh,
So
okay.
make it official, I
That's
believe.
what I thought.
Yes.
Okay, 15 minutes to the public, then. I'd like to adjourn the meeting, 7:04.